Jones Adventures Tell It Right, Big Data or Big Brother?
So big data, what does it all really mean? That's the best way to start this out. So it's not the Aurora Borealis, but the Aurora Borealis is sort of atmospheric disruption to the way we're looking at market disruptions nowadays. So for the purpose of this talk, what I thought we'd look at is more of a consumer-based look at big data instead of a lot of the different avenues we could go. So that brings into play evolving social platforms. So with evolving social platforms, you've got the Google and the Facebook and the Microsoft and the Apple, but how do they all interact with each other? It's really what's going on behind the scenes, how they're trying to generate their potential and our interaction with them, and what ends up happening at the end of this kind of a discussion with these type of things. And with that, it's really artificial intelligence. So when you integrate artificial intelligence in search, this is what's happening behind the scenes. That's what a lot of these companies are investing in. I mean, Microsoft investing within some of the different universities. So with the artificial intelligence with search, it's trying to actually join what's happening behind the scenes with us in a way. So it's really trying to make what we're interacting with more intelligent, and it brings into play the concept of predictive analytics. So it's kind of like, let's say you're on Google and you're on Bing and you're typing. You're looking for what you want to get to, right? And when you do that, it ends up finishing your sentence for you. That's kind of the idea behind it. The more that you use it, the more that it learns you, and the more comfortable you are with that platform and that environment. And that kind of brings in this collective consciousness thing. It's like bridging one to many is what I call it. But really, with collective consciousness, you're connected with your group. You're connected with your enterprise. You're connected with those in your social network. And this is actually all well and good in a lot of ways. But it does end up bringing into play another aspect. And that's the idea of the ramifications of this learned behavior. So if these systems, learning about us, investing to learn about us, what are some of those ramifications from that? I mean, they're actually tracking everything that we're doing. I mean, from your cell phone, from the web pages that you're tracking, from all your different trends, your passions, your interests. All of this is actually coming into play. And so in doing that, I mean, these social engines, they're actually studying, I mean, when they're looking at our behavior, they're actually seeing us as ways, of course, to create more ad revenue. That's why they can do this. When they're generating more ad revenue, they're actually being on top of that. They actually want to get more involved with what we're doing, how we're doing it, and what's happening. And that's that concept of Big Brother, right? So if you take this to this extreme, so if we're actually being tracked this much, how much of our freedoms and our privacy are giving up? I mean, years ago, the government, there was the concept of actually introducing a universal ID. Now we have it with our cell phone and with everything that we're tracking. So with these kinds of things, we can get afraid and pull back, but I call it the Alfred E. Newman approach, where it's like, all right, if we take that part aside, and then we decide to say, this is actually an incredible business model for these social systems, how can we capitalize on it as law firms? What can we do as law firms to push our market forward and get on top of our clients? And so it brings an example to mind of the Oracle. Not the Oracle from the Matrix, but the Larry Ellison guy with the sailboat. And I was at Legal Tech in New York. And there was the example that came up when I was talking with a fellow from Oracle. He was talking about a lot of the research that they were doing and some of the industries they were working with. And one of the industries they were working with was insurance. And so with insurance, his concept that he talked to me about, and I've heard of it before, it's called velocity insurance. And I think everybody here would really love it. It's the idea that when you're driving, the insurance company will be able to track how fast you're driving at any given time. So if you're actually going too fast for too long, they can raise the rates on you. So no, I don't think actually anybody would like that. But that's kind of the concept. I thought if we'd introduce it to legal, you have that concept of velocity billing. It is not the guy falling splat on the floor that I think would make velocity billing popular, but is that concept if you can take that real-time collaboration that insurance was looking to make a buck on, but you translate that to our practice, then you can start to see how you can really rethink how we work our practices. And you can take a concept of social workflow innovation, and you can say that, all right, we can actually now, for the first time, really measure what return on investment would be. When you integrate these social platforms and their goals with our enterprise culture and the way that we operate with our systems and bring into play these data analytics that run behind the scenes, you bring into a whole new level of innovation. So it's workflow innovation and spherical analytics. Call this spherical analytics because it gets away from this traditional linear path where typically you just have one point of connection. I mean, we've heard different points tonight about some of the different communications that have been around the past, right? But with spherical analytics, you actually have a whole new way of looking at business models. But there's another side to it, and that is the darker side of analytics. I call it that because, take for example the flu. Google's going to predict the flu. They have algorithms that predict the flu and the level of flu that happens before the flu actually happens. The flu happens, and Google is wrong. Not by a lot, by a little bit. That's because the analytics weren't really quite correct, or the data wasn't correct. When they looked at it, the analytics were fine. It was the data. The data wasn't correct. So I call that the dark and disruptive side of the force with this kind of an example, because that's something that ends up, it just brings it to another level of it's only as good as the data. So for us to move forward in this path, it's only going to be as good as the data we have in the system. So in looking at this, you can react in some ways and say, all right, it's the old Jedi mind trick thing, right? Because big data, it's a big buzzword. Everybody's talking about it. Is this really going to be the way we're going into the future? And my reaction to that would be not only yes, but it's already happening faster than we really want to. And if we really wanted to take it to some of the getting to the space age type of examples, you can actually, we already have it there. You've got the Google glasses coming out. So you can actually have the potential for video, camera, facial recognition happening at all times, able to run analytics on it. You can have things introducing to the concept of BioWare. You have all different types of integration that's happening over the next 10 years. And so when you're looking at these kinds of things, it's important to me to then take a step back, not go to Ray Kurzweil's singularity yet, and say, okay, we can make a business out of multiple collaboration points. We can actually have a strategic path forward in the next 1 year to 3 year to 5 years based off of looking at the analytics we can do through the social media multiple collaboration points. And that brings me to the ending concept of essentially is there is no spoon. So we don't have a path mapped out for our industry yet, but balancing the big brother aspect with the aspect of how are we going to go forward with the realities of analytics is something we'll be taking a look at. Thank you so much for your time.